Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. And we're going to start out tonight not with a person, but with a thing, the swimsuit at the Miss America Pageant, which has died at the age of 98. Here is the tale of the swimsuit disappearing from the Miss America Pageant from the New York Post. There she is, Miss America, fully clothed. Miss America is scrapping its swimsuit competition and will no longer judge contestants based on their looks, the organization announced Tuesday. We've heard from a lot of young women who say, we'd love to be part of your program, but we don't want to be out there in high heels and a swimsuit. So guess what? You don't have to do that anymore. Gretchen Carlson, chairman of the Miss America organization, told Good Morning America, who doesn't want to be empowered, learn leadership skills, and pay for college and be able to show the world who you are as a person from the inside of your soul, she said. That's what we're judging them on now. Since its start nearly 100 years ago, the pageant has been known for featuring beauty queens parading around in skimpy bikinis and sparkling gowns. Now the Miss America hopefuls from all 50 states and D.C. will be asked to show off their wits and passion in a live interactive session with the judges. Instead of evening gowns, contestants will be asked to wear something that portrays their personal style and makes them feel confident. The major changes came after the CEO and top executives resigned in December because of leaked emails in which they made lewd and sexist comments about past winners. In January, Carlson was named the first former winner to serve as the organization's leader, and 4 other former Miss America winners were also named to the board. Carlson, who was crowned Miss America in 1989, said the changes hopefully would inspire people to be part of the program, which she said was no longer a pageant, but a competition. So I guess now you can watch them take a test in Atlantic City or Las Vegas or wherever they're going to hold it now. Why do we get the feeling that one of these days we're going to be doing the obituary of the Miss America competition? Also, check out the Marianne Mobley podcast that we did a couple years ago. She was a Miss America from Mississippi in 1959 for her views on this issue. Sticking with the subject of female confidence, we're going to move on now to Kate Spade, who died recently at the age of 55. She was born Katie Brosnahan, a nice Irish Catholic girl from Kansas City who moved to New York and became the premier designer for fashion handbags in the 1990s. She made American handbags fashionable, and the next best thing to having a Kate Spade handbag, which cost about $300, was having a knockoff, which cost about $20. I went to New York once with my daughter Celia, and she used about $200 of her waitress money to buy knockoff Kate Spade handbags in Midtown Manhattan. Here, Kate Spade talks about the label and what her mother thought when she heard that she was using her boyfriend's last name.
The label that was meant to go on the inside, I took it out of the box and I sewed it on the outside, and that was it. She burst into flames. She was like, "But you're not Kate Spade." And I said, "I know," but she said, "Oh, now you'll never be Kate Spade. Now you've jinxed it, and why would you name it Kate Spade?" And I said, "Well, it's my first name, his last name, and it's like Dolce and Gabbana." And she goes, "Who the hell's that?"
Kate Spade sold the company over a decade ago, but her name is still associated with the iconic handbags. Here's a story in Vanity Fair by Rebecca Keegan about the time she interviewed Kate Spade, and I think it tells you a lot about what the Kate Spade bag and what the Kate Spade mystique were about. The tragic news of Kate Spade's death got me thinking about my one memorable encounter with a designer. In 2003, I carried a Kate Spade knockoff bag to a Kate Spade interview. As a young female reporter living in New York City at that time, Spade's bags represented class, sophistication, grown-upness, joie de vivre, and everything that I was pretending to possess. I had read those dress for the job you want stories in women's magazines, and I was trying, damn it, while earning about $50,000 a year as a general assignment reporter at Time magazine and living in Queens. Part of trying was riding the subway to Chinatown and buying a pretty, boxy black nylon tote that looked identical to the ones I'd seen stylish Manhattan women carrying, but for $20 instead of the $300 or so that they were going for at Macy's. One day I got a spur-of-the-moment assignment to interview Kate Spade for a Time story. Surely a writer who was actually qualified to interview a fashion mogul had fallen through at the last moment, so there I was, ascending the steps to Spade's office with my tape recorder and reporter's notebook tucked into the Kate Spade knockoff tote that I had bought a few months earlier. I didn't remember I was carrying the bag until a receptionist who was summoning Spade for the interview glanced at it and squinted, probably taking in the janky stitching. Time froze briefly as I prayed for the earth beneath the stylishly appointed Soho loft to open up and swallow me, along with the real Kate Spade clutches and totes that were arrayed neatly around us. Horrified, I quickly took off my trench coat, slung it over my arm to conceal the fake bag, and sat that way for my entire 1-hour interview with Spade. Sadly, I remember little of our conversation, so fixated was I on concealing from her the evidence of my fraudulence. I do remember that Spade's skin was luminous, her outfit impeccable, and that she seemed nice and really, really smart. Apparently, according to the story I wrote, Spade talked to me about the whimsical bags in her mother's Kansas City closet that inspired her, and about how people had warned her away from the vicious fashion industry because she was too nice a girl. I also remember that Spade kept discreetly tilting her head, trying to see whatever I was concealing underneath my trench coat. After the interview, I filed my story and shared the tale of my fashion faux pas with a guy who I had just started dating. A few days later, a Macy's package was waiting on the steps of my walk-up. The guy had bought me a real Kate Spade bag, a bright red, boxy little nylon tote. It was too much money for a man to spend on a woman he'd just known a few weeks, in my skeptical opinion, but I felt, in language I didn't yet have at the time, seen. I was classy, sophisticated, and grown up. I wasn't a fraud, I was authentic. I was just authentically broke. I carried that beautiful bag for years and retired it not long ago because I destroyed it with everyday use, like some sort of velveteen rabbit luxury object that is loved too hard. In 2005, I married the man who bought me that bag. Fashion is often about a myth we tell women, but love and success are easily had, just a perfect handbag away. They aren't, of course, for any of us, but I did so love my first Kate Spade bag, and I was happy to bask in the story it let me tell about myself. We're going to move on now to Red Schoendienst, who died recently at the age of 95, one of the iconic St. Louis Cardinals of the 20th century. He was a great second baseman, and he spent most of his career with the Cardinals. Unfortunately, he was overshadowed by his roommate, Stan Musial, who was basically the greatest Cardinal, and we did Stan Musial's podcast a couple years ago. He played a little bit with the Braves on their championship teams in 57-58. He played with the New York Giants, came back to manage the Cardinals. In fact, he was managing them when I was working at Wrigley Field. I remember him as a pretty quiet but gruff guy, and he was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1989. He was the oldest surviving Hall of Famer until he died. That distinction now belongs to Tommy Lasorda. Here is the Hall of Fame on Red Schoendienst.
He spent 15 of his 19 big league seasons in a Cardinals uniform, then managed the Redbirds to 2 National League pennants and the 1967 World Series title, all part of his 12 full seasons as their manager. No man had a more fitting nickname than Red Schoendienst, who embodied the Cardinals' way for 7 decades. Born February 2nd, 1923, about 40 miles from St. Louis in Germantown, Illinois, Albert Fred Schoendienst suffered a serious eye injury as a teenager. It left the right-handed hitter struggling to hit right-handed pitching. Schoendienst countered by learning how to switch hit, and after signing an amateur contract with the Cardinals in 1942, he made his big league debut in 1945. Schoendienst made an immediate impact, leading the National League in stolen bases with 26 during his rookie year, hitting .278 while playing left field. The next year, Schoendienst moved to his natural position of second base, where he hit .281 en route to a berth in the All-Star game, while helping the Cardinals defeat the Red Sox in the World Series. Schoendienst quickly became known for having one of the best pair of hands in the game, leading the league in fielding percentage 6 times. He played with the Giants and the Braves toward the end of his career before returning to the Cardinals, totaling 10 All-Star game selections, despite missing almost the entire 1959 season due to a bout with tuberculosis. At age 42, Schoendienst inherited the reins of the 1964 World Champion Cardinals, and by 1967, the Redhead had St. Louis back atop the baseball world. In 5 of his 12 full seasons as manager, Schoendienst led the Cardinals to a first or second place finish. Schoendienst remained with the Cardinals after his managerial days, serving as a coach and later a uniform spring training instructor well into his 90s. He was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1989.
Here's a little bit of his Hall of Fame acceptance speech.
Second base was when I became a major league player. I would play any position my manager asked. Whatever it took to win, I was willing to do. All I ever wanted was to be on that lineup card every day and become a champion. I've been a member of some great teams, like the championship teams John Quinn and Fred Haney put together in Milwaukee in 57 and 58. I was also on the last Giant team Horace Stoneham had in New York. And Charlie Finley gave me the opportunity to coach in the American League. I've had the unique pleasure of being teammates with some of the greatest players in the history of baseball. Stan the Man, Willie Mays, Lawrence Spahn, Henry Aaron, and Eddie Matthews. But my best memories are being a St. Louis Cardinal and participating as a player, a manager, and a coach in 7 World Series. As a rookie, can you imagine stepping into a lineup that listed Terry Moore, Eno Slaughter, the Cooper boys, Burkeen, Paulette, and Karowski, and eventually a partner at the Keystone with Morty Marion. But the luckiest break for me was when I became Stan Musial's roommate. We had great games and good times together. Stan and Lil are dear friends, and I'm glad, once again, we will be roommates here in the Hall of Fame.
We're going to close tonight with our feature, Jerry Maren, who died recently at the age of 98, the last adult munchkin from The Wizard of Oz. He was a member of the Lollipop Guild. By the way, if those don't sound like the ones you hear in the movie, it's because those are the actual voices of Jerry Maren and the 2 guys who played the other Munchkins. Their voices in the movie were dubbed in. Jerry Maren always took offense at some of the lurid stories about the Munchkins. Some of those were started, I think, by Judy Garland on Jack Parr show one night when she was maybe overserved.
What about the Munchkins?
Yeah, how about that? What?
The Munchkins. Yeah. Well, what the Munchkins do?
Well, they're
little dwarfs.
Chinese.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Were they little kids or were they little men?
They were drunks.
They were little drunks?
They were.
What they, you got me stuttering.
They put them all in one hotel room. Not one room, one hotel in Culver City.
Yeah.
And they got smashed every night. And they'd pick them up in butterfly nets.
The reporters, of course, ran with this.
Don't you believe it? Really? That's one thing I hate, that them stupid stories. You mind if I say something? If I was 6 foot tall, I'd go to every one of those guys that wrote those stupid things. You know, it was awful. I'd have grabbed him up against the wall and said, you know what you did? Bang, I'd knocked up.
You get the idea. The thing about Jerry Maren was he wasn't just a munchkin.
Jerry had an amazing career. He was Buster Brown, Oscar the Chef, even an ape in Planet of the Apes. Not that anyone cares to hear about any of that.
I can mention anything, but when I say I'm in The Wizard of Oz, you say, you were in The Wizard of Oz?
But what pretty much went unmentioned was his second greatest role as a suspicious circus performer in this 1939 movie with these guys.
What do you want?
Oh, sure. We come in if you insist.
Is this a friend of yours?
I should say not. He's a lawyer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what? Why, do you want to make anything out of it? Try to bully me. I'll lick you the best day you ever had.
What brings you here?
Oh, nothing important. We just want to trap you into a confession.
Confession?
Nice work, Einstein. That's what I call using strategy. I know my stuff, eh?
It's kind of late to be visiting, isn't it?
Well, we just happened to be passing your house and we saw a firefly burning in your window. Did you lose this?
I know. I didn't lose it. Where'd you find it?
Never mind that. Are these your teeth prints?
No.
Well, Tony, I guess we're late. I guess so, boss. The man is undoubtedly innocent. Well, no hard feelings.
Oh, none at all. Let's shake on it.
By the way, I'm all out of smokes. Do you happen to have a spare cigar on you? Here! I got one. I got one for you, too. And for myself.
Thanks. Let me get your light.
Why don't you trade your head in on a bowling ball? Don't you realize that I'm trying to get incriminating evidence? Now, let's smoke these up quickly, and then I'll ask him for one of his cigars.
You boys?
No, thanks. Bad luck. 3 on a midget. That's a superstition.
For those of you uninitiated, the movie was at the circus, and those guys were Groucho and Chico. And of course, Harpo came in at the end. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. Munchkins got about $50 a week. Toto got $125 a week on The Wizard of Oz. Be that as it may, it's pretty obvious what we close with tonight to honor Jerry Maren. They're singing, and Judy is dancing.
You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. In time he lives a wizard who lives, if ever a lives there was. If ever a lives there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.